Etsy is dead, according to the Style Theorist channel. Okay, I've watched the Theorist channels for a while, back when Matt was there, and I always enjoyed their research and fun, but they deep dived into the research of things, game theory. It was great, like figuring out how high Super Mario can really jump, and all these things from like basic science. But when I saw a video the other day that they'd created in the Style Theorist channel, Etsy is dead, the downfall of Etsy, I knew I wanted to watch it with you. I haven't watched it at all yet, so this is going to be my first raw viewing. I'm a little concerned it's not going to say anything different than all the other exposés of Etsy have said in the past, but also I'm a little worried that it is going to say something different. So we'll look into what it's saying. I'll have my experience as an Etsy coach, an Etsy seller for since 2008, and just me being a cynical person, I will look into this and see what I think. So let's pull up the video in the bigger screen. There we go. Is that how we wanted it? Yep. Let's play this.
Etsy is dead. What was
dramatic? I love it. Anyway,
once the home of makers selling really cool handmade items has become infested with higher fees, drop shippers, and of course, AI art. But can it be?
Yeah, okay. So all of this we know, but there's still real artists on there, and got everyone making these expose videos and everyone boycotting and complaining. Be aware, some of us, it's the only place we've got, and we need Etsy as well, and we're hand making stuff. But can it be saved? I absolutely hope so. I'm on board with, yeah, let's save it.
Be saved, or is this the end of Etsy?
I hope not.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Style Theory, the show that's handmade just for you. Now, speaking of handmade, we have to talk about Etsy. You know, the store that sells everything from handmade friendship bracelets to hand-pressed flowers and, very pretty hand-painted dice. What? I don't have a problem. You have a problem. Now, even if you don't...
Sorry, I'm dying that she hissed. I do... Random aside, if you haven't watched the Theorist channels, I think there's 4 of them now, and it used to all be Matt Pat, who was absolutely cool, but I loved it. Amy, I think her name is. When they switched to other presenters, Matt left and left some of his team in charge of each thing, and I was really happy they picked the goth girl.
Frequent Etsy, you've probably heard some of the tea. Etsy's been, how do I put this? It's been going through a hard time.
Back during the pandemic, Etsy was king. Its stock prices soared, and it was every crafter's favorite craft store to sell their stuff.
But ever since that high, Etsy has taken a massive tumble.
In 2020,
but Etsy's been around for 20 years. Everyone talks about the pandemic, and that was a high, but it's been around and growing for 20 years. So that was 5 years ago. There's more to it than just the pandemic. But yeah, Etsy's a victim of its success in that it jumped on the wave. People were needing things like masks. So, and Amazon and everyone else wasn't allowing masks. So Etsy did. But it was a big problem because then all the get-rich-quick gurus said, hey, all you have to do to sell on Etsy is find out what's selling really well for someone else and copy them and you'll make millions. And they'd show their money and say, look how much I've made. Like, yeah, because you sold in the first week of the pandemic when everyone was freaking out and buying masks.
2023, Etsy laid off around 11% of its workforce. And just a few months later, a questionable group of investors came in and bought up 13% of the company with the goal.
Yeah, I remember reporting on that at the time. It was a bit of a worry. Actually, 13% shouldn't be enough. And I've spoke about how angry I am that companies can be run by people with a ton of money coming in and taking over and completely changing how they are. I haven't seen it getting much worse since then. because all these people care about is money, and Etsy was sort of on the decline, and it's ridden the wave of the quick bucks. Yes, it could be pushed into trying to become Temu or Amazon or something, but I don't think it's got a chance to be able to do that. So hopefully they're going to hold it accountable, hold the feet to the fire, and be saying you've got to have a unique selling point. And what's Etsy's unique selling point? It is not ripping off other people's designs. And Etsy has changed the policies and everything to now, yeah, people can't just buy a design, slap it on a t-shirt and say, roll in the money. You have to have some hand in the design that's a little more than that.
Goal of turning things around ASAP.
Listen, I don't care if Etsy's big executive dudes get their goal. They'll be fine. But as a lover of art...
So completely agree. Oh, I'm going to keep stopping this, but couldn't agree more. I don't care if rich people that could afford to buy shares make money. I'm a shareholder. I have half a share in Etsy. I'm one of those fat cats, but no, I much prefer making my money off of sales on Etsy. Yeah, let's not go down the whole rabbit hole of how annoyed I am that rich people can get richer by putting money into companies that the people on the inside of the company are on below minimum wage. And yeah. Come on, you can start. You can start.
And a crafter myself, I am really concerned about the little guys. You know, the artists, the makers, and of course, the customers. These are the people getting screwed over by Etsy trying to recoup its losses. Etsy's main...
Yeah. Something we don't mention enough is the customers. Like, I used to be a customer of Etsy. I barely buy on Etsy anymore because of it's so hard to find decent stuff. Search is bad. What you're getting shown to you is bad. The recommendations are bad. My friend Starla says that the app's looking a lot better at targeting, understanding what you like when you start searching there. So I might start doing that. But yeah, it's a big problem that customers who are looking for decent handmade stuff find it hard to find it on Etsy. So there's less buyers for the things that we want to be selling on Etsy. So Etsy starts to be saying, oh, well, we're not making money off of this, so we won't promote it so much, and vicious cycle in the negative.
My concern is, think of the shareholders. I hate it.
This, along with other drastic changes that, yes, we will get to, have led to longtime sellers ditching Etsy for greener pastures. And that sucks because I loved Etsy. It was a hub of all different types of creatives, all in one easy to find place.
Over the years, I've purchased a lot from Etsy. I purchased prints, stickers, and yes, a lot of dice, and you've even seen some of it in these videos. But for Etsy to be saved, it's going to have to address the 3 biggest problems on its platform, or die trying.
Okay, let's see. Right. I've skipped ahead. Well, I've not skipped ahead, but I was going to say, let's guess what the 3 biggest problems are. So I'm seeing the first one's fees. I was going to say shareholders, customer support, resellers, people who shouldn't be on there, but she's starting with the fees. I don't think the fees are a problem. Bear with me, right? Yes, the fees have gone up twice in the 20 years Etsy has existed. They started, I think they were around 3%. I can't remember the exact, I'm going to get this all wrong. They were really low for a very large amount of time. And that was to attract sellers. They needed to attract sellers, and then they put the prices up to be reasonable, to make money. And then they put the prices up again. This was to make money, but also they put the prices up again because they wanted to be able to do the refunds and everything, the purchase protection program. So the fees are higher to cover our back, sort of, as well. I'm not mad keen on it, but the purchase protection is there because there was so many scammy sellers and customers were nervous to buy on Etsy. So if they know they've got a guaranteed money back if they've got a scammer, then they're more likely to buy on Etsy. And also, a lot of sellers were like, well, it's late. That's not my problem, when it was, because we purchased the shipping and all the rest of it. But now Etsy saying, okay, there's a problem with this, so this money goes into the customers refunded from Etsy's money if the item arrives late. So it's like a sort of insurance. I'm not mad keen on it, but at the same time, Etsy fees still aren't that much. If you look into, like, I've sold in a bricks and mortar art gallery before, or wholesale or anything else. If in an art gallery, it's pretty standard for them to take 50% or more. And that doesn't mean you get to mark your item up that much. They want competitive pricing as well. So in an art gallery or a shop or something, 50% or more of pretty much your Etsy price, because they don't want to be able to the customers to come in and better search online and see that your item's cheaper and then not buy it from the gallery. So 50% fees for something like that. Or if you do wholesale, if someone was to buy wholesale a big bunch of things for them to sell in their shop, they want at least a 50% reduction. Etsy used to have a wholesale part of the site, and you had to be able to offer 50% off or more. So are the fees that much? Now, they are a lot, and you have to factor them in and figure it out. But let's see. I'm sorry. Let's see what she has to say.
If there's one thing that sellers on Etsy have been the most vocal about, it's problem number one.
The fees! The fees! The fees! I mean, pricing out the core users of your platform is a very bold strategy, Etsy. How's it working?
Listen, unless Etsy's executives are planning to learn to embroider pillows anytime soon, it seems like keeping your sellers happy should be your number one priority.
But hey, maybe
that's a lovely thought. But there are too many sellers on Etsy. The ratio of sellers to buyers is too high. So Etsy has said numerous times that basically they are not going to lose a sale if they lose some sellers. They're happy to lose some sellers. Even sadly, I mean, yes, there's lots of scammy sellers they need less of, but even the wonderful handmade sellers, there's plenty. So sadly, Etsy doesn't have to keep us happy. I wish it did, but it doesn't have to. There's plenty. Everyone complains, like, says their category saturated. If you're saying your category saturated, there's always ways around that. It's never totally saturated. But if you're saying your category saturated, then you can't say that Etsy has to keep you happy. Because if it's saturated, there's too many, but that it means there's too much. So yeah, Etsy doesn't care about keeping you happy. It's the whole unshittification of things, my new favorite word of last year. But to start with something really, really good, Etsy businesses want to get to the point of where it's just bad enough that it's just good enough that it just keeps enough people there. So come on, that's what you want to do with your pricing, right? You want to get your prices high enough so that you just keep enough sales, basically. You don't want to price too high that you make no sales. You don't want to price too low. You just want to be shit enough. And it's the same with Etsy. They don't want to price too high that there's zero sellers at all. They don't want to price too low that they can't make any money and their shareholders get angry. They want to price at the point where it's just enough friction. And thinking on it, they're probably doing the right thing if people are complaining, but there's still too many sellers.
maybe me and all of the other thousands of artists on Etsy are wrong. Maybe we are just being dramatic. Maybe these fees really aren't so bad. So let's review.
Before you can
I hope she's going to compare it to other sites, which is really difficult to do. I've done a breakdown, but something like Amazon, it's really hard to figure out how much the fees are on Amazon because it depends what tier you're in, how many sales you've had, what level you're on, I can't figure out exactly what Amazon fees are. And eBay, yeah, you can list for free, but you still have fees. There are still fees. Nothing's free. I'm on
You can
computer.
start selling your art prints or custom book bindings over on Etsy. You have to pay their one-time setup fee, which when I tried it for myself for this episode, came out to $29.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is an interesting one. Etsy add this, and they're experimenting with different levels. They tell us it's 15, then they tell us it's 20. For some people, it's free. I mean, it is not fair that it's different prices, but the idea is they want to stop those scammy people that open up like 20 shops, list a load of enticing things, never ship them and leave. They want to make it harder to set up a shop. Now, I don't agree with the startup fees, but it is what it is. I wish it also meant if they're paying that one-time fee, so if you're paying $30, I wish it meant that there was a human to review your setup. I mean, what if they spent 30 minutes, if they spent 15 minutes reviewing your shop and approving it for that $30, it would be worth it, maybe.
Okay, I'll admit that's not too bad.
But once your store's up and running, you're gonna want to start filling that store with, items to sell,
20
right?
cents.
Well, there's a fee for that.
Etsy charges a listing fee of 20 cents per item that you put up in your store.
But then, if you actually do sell that item, you are charged that listing fee again. Yes, again, to restock that item. What is this, Amazon? But that's not all. After 4
Yeah, every 4 months, yeah, you're charged 20 cents to take that item from the back room and put it in the front of your store. I love you, but at the same time, getting dramatic about 20 cents when you're going into business. This is business. I know we're crafters and whatever else, but if the 20 cents is a problem, just wait till you hear about advertising fees and payment processing fees, transaction fee. Yeah.
months, if you have not sold that product, but you want to keep it available in your store, you have to pay that listing fee again.
All of this.
Yeah, remember when Etsy started, like these are historic things. When Etsy started, you had to pay fees to list on eBay. eBay scrapped them in the UK. I think other places do. You have to pay for your item to be up there. At the end of the day, if you have your own website, you have to pay for your website to be live unless you've got a rubbishy free one that's not going to get any sales anyway. So they're just charging you. They're not charging you to show your item. They're charging you for your item to be live. That was standard like 20 years ago. Could they remove it? Well, no, because there are shops out there that are flooding the market with thousands and thousands and thousands of AI created, automated listings. That volume is really hurting Etsy. That volume is a problem. So at the least, if Etsy can skim the 20 cents off of them, it's a kind of good thing. And we as the little guys are better off stocking our shop with less but quality things. So the 20 cents shouldn't be a big ouchie for us. Just my take.
This is making me so stressed. I could really use a recharge or something right now.
I can help with that.
Ah, a monster!
I'm not a monster. I'm a mask that's about to change your life. Thanks to our sponsor, Amiro.
What is it?
I'm so glad you asked. While it may look like something, it's $70 off of your mask.
Take 6.5% style to
Here
get
we
one
go.
before they're
If-
gone.
if
Thanks
you
again,
want-
Amira.
But not even a spa treatment can make what's about to happen next any less rage-inducing.
Etsy's most notorious fee is its transaction fee, which takes 6.5% off.
Notorious fee? eBay charges you a transaction fee. This is the fee to keep Etsy afloat. We have to pay fees. Like I say, it can be 50% or more in other places. I love you, but we're being very dramatic here. There needs to be fees. So I get they can add up and they can be a surprise, but why do we expect to be able to make sales for free. We're in business. There's a cost of business, and we have to take this into account. Yes, it's much higher than it used to be. I've explained all of this, but is 6.5% a lot? If it is, you need to raise your prices. And if you're struggling to be able to raise your prices, you probably need to work on your photos and your SEO, but don't race to the bottom. If you can't increase your prices, increase your quality so you can increase your prices. People pay more for a quality item. You can have a higher markup, and therefore the fees aren't as big a deal. Come on, that's a cute teddy, by the way. Come on, computer. Wow. How can I be a reaction channel if you don't let me react to stuff? I'm not going to be a reaction channel. My computer has been loading videos all day.
Off every sale. Yikes. And this fee is only going up. When Etsy first launched back in 2005, there was no fee. But Etsy had to make money somehow. So they quickly instituted a 3.5% transaction fee.
Yeah.
And that was the standard for years until 2018 when they raised that rate to 5%. And then they raised it again in 2022 to the 6.5% that we have today.
As you can imagine,
We always knew the 3.5. We always knew that was a low price.
this did not go over well with Etsy sellers. In fact, when that 6.5% fee was announced, thousands of Etsy sellers went on strike and filed petitions to get Etsy to reverse the change. But Etsy didn't budge.
This is the thing. Look, I understand that people were stressed. It wasn't just the fees. The strike was for a lot of things, and I completely agreed with a lot of the things that made them angry. But yeah, Etsy wasn't going to change that. They weren't going to drop the fees.
It's not even the end of all the fees. You have currency conversion fees, payment transaction fees. Oh, and don't get me started. Don't even get me started on the shipping fee.
Too late. Normally, when you buy something off Etsy, you, the customer, are responsible for paying the shipping costs. Which makes sense. Etsy sellers are people, not Amazon. They can't afford to eat the cost of shipping on every order.
Except Etsy really wants to be like Senpai Amazon.
They strongly encourage sellers to offer free shipping on orders over $35. But who actually pays for that free shipping? Well, the seller could swallow that cost, but for small businesses with thin margins, that's not always possible. Of course, maybe Etsy is a true bro and pays for it themselves.
Don't make me laugh. Instead, they tell sellers to just raise your prices.
What? In fact, they have a whole web tool devoted to showing sellers how to raise their prices to cover that free shipping.
Which means that in the end, customers still pay for shipping, even when it's listed as free. Sure.
Yeah, I've had a whole rant about this. It's not free shipping. That nothing's free in this world. I'm sure Amazon free shipping isn't free shipping. It's paid for. Everything is paid for, and the person who's paying for it is the buyer or the seller if they're losing money. Yeah, absolutely. But it's not a fee. That's like saying me buying wool to create my sculptures is a fee. It's not. It's a cost of doing business. We have to be like, I am in business, not, oh, it's not fair. I should just be able to make things for free and people should throw money at me. No, if you have to ship things, if you have your own website, you're going to have to pay for shipping. If you decide to put free shipping on your listings on your website, you're going to have to pay for shipping. I hate this because this is not Etsy things. Like, yeah, let's bash Etsy for the things they've done, not for normal things. This is being dramatic, and what I know they're being dramatic because it's entertaining, so you watch the whole thing. But the problem with this is people who aren't Etsy sellers watch this and go, Etsy treats their sellers terrible, so I'm going to stop buying from Etsy. That's not helping us. What this kind of thing does is it drives shoppers away, and we have got nowhere else to go to capture them. So us sellers lose out because of this kind of thing, and it drives It drives away the ethical buyers. That's the whole point. The people who care about the sellers are driven away. Don't. Yeah. Losing the ability to speak. I was going to go somewhere else, but I totally lost track of where I was going, because this is why I try and cover these videos, because this is big channels going a load of negative coverage for Etsy. And I know it, like, Etsy sees this and things do happen, so that's kind of good. But the bad things are happening at a much faster rate. The more and more publicity we get for how bad Etsy is, people step away from it. And that would be absolutely fine if we had an alternative. Where do you go to buy beautiful handmade things? Where else is there? Tell me in the comments, where else is there? I know there's like Folksy in the UK, but it's tiny. There's Go Imagine, again, tiny. They're not big enough on their own to sustain our business. They're not big enough to actually be attracting enough buyers, because there's not enough there that you want to buy. And also a lot of customers are wary because it's new. They don't know if it's a scam site, because you might end up thinking you're on a decent site and you've bought a paddling pool for your dog and it turns out hamster size. So people are wary about these new sites. So at the minute in time, I don't know that bashing Etsy for things that aren't actually a big deal in a dramatic way that's eye-catching and is getting millions of views, I don't think it's the best way to go.
That makes total sense. But you know what doesn't make sense? The ads. Yeah, Etsy's ad policy is freaking bonkers.
If you're a seller on Etsy, there are two different types of ads you can run to try and reach more customers: on-site Etsy ads and off-site ads. Etsy ads let you pay to have your product be shown at the top of results when customers search for things on Etsy, which, to be fair, is pretty standard for most retail marketplaces nowadays.
But Amy, I hear you saying to your screen, an ad isn't a fee, and that is exactly where you're wrong.
You see, Etsy's other ad option, the off-site ads that are meant to help show your products to potential customers.
Before she goes on, yes, an ad isn't a fee. I know what she's going to say with the next thing. With on-site ads, you don't have to pay to play. You don't have to get involved in them. The thing, now, here, I just said don't bash Etsy for no reason. Etsy used to allow us ability to determine our maximum cost per click, how much we were going to be paying for these ads. And it's a bidding system like eBay. So everybody who wants to run an advert for that keyword, they put their maximum cost per click, and Etsy, lets the winner is the one who's got the highest cost per click. They win and their advert's shown. All great. And then Etsy went, oh, don't worry your poor little head. That's too complicated, you poor thing. Tell you what, we'll decide how much your maximum budget is. We'll decide how much your cost per click is. And we'll decide what everyone else on the platform's cost per click is. And that really does sound a little unethical to me. Anyway, she's going on to offsite ads. Offsite ads, she'll tell you all of this, but it's a thing if you've made over $10,000 in a single year, you can't opt out of. But the other thing that most people miss, if you've got a smaller shop, you can opt out of it. But the key point there is opt out. You open up a shop and you're automatically enrolled in it. So it could be that your very first sale has these ads without you knowing that you have these ads. I wonder if she's going to cover some of the other fees as well. I'm just thinking of it right now, because a lot of these are just fees for Americans. If you're not in America, you have added fees. Your transaction fee, not your transaction fee, your payment fee is different in different countries. And you can say, oh, well, that's because PayPal costs more or whatever else. It actually, when Etsy was just, you were paying through PayPal, the fees were less. It went up to use Etsy checkout, and we pay more than some of, other countries pay more than us. But everyone is charged a different amount to process the fee. Not only that, but this is a silly, but just a little bugbear for me. We're paying more for less of a service, because with PayPal, when I made a sale, that money was available to me immediately. I could go into PayPal and send it from PayPal to my account, and it was there within a minute. Now with Etsy, you can set up to deposits daily, but it takes them a day to deposit it, and it takes a bit of time to float through the interwebs to get into your bank. So we're paying more for a less good service. I've gone off tangent again, and I'm saying don't rant at Etsy, and I'm ranting at Etsy, am I? Anyway, let's get back into it. Oh boy. But I've got every right to rant at Etsy. I've been around here since 2008. I've seen it all. I've heard it all. I'm tired. I just want Etsy to be good.
On other websites? Well, they are optional.
Until it's not.
If your shop makes more than $10,000 a year, those ads are mandatory. Yep.
Whether you like it or not, if you are one of those successful top-tier shops, Etsy is going to force you to run off-site ads. And on top of that, if that ad is actually successful in getting you another sale, then you will be charged, say it with me, class, another fee. Yay.
Which comes out to 12% off each sale for that top tier shop. And if your shop isn't in that top tier, then that fee is 15%. 15!
Yes, and that is on top of all of our other fees. Look at these fees. They can barely fit on screen.
Clearly.
Oh, that's where I was going. Yeah. We've also got, if you're in a different country, regulatory operating fees. These are an additional fee that Etsy charges us just for being foreign, because it's a little bit more expensive. So Canada just got hit with one recently. The UK has one. And on top of that, it's not an Etsy fee, but every single one of our fees are taxable in the UK, VAT. So every single one of our fees, we get charged an additional 25%. Yeah, we get charged additional on our fees. So our fees are significantly worse than your fees. Thanks, government.
The fees have it, but that is only strike one against Etsy. Fees aren't Etsy's only problem. Instead, customers and sellers alike have to keep their eyes out for an even more deadly foe: dropshippers.
Yeah, okay, number 2, I think I mentioned that I thought this would be a thing. Dropshipping is a big problem on Etsy. Etsy has been working to improve this, but they're doing terribly. So dropshipping is basically, you don't have the item, you didn't make the item, it's somewhere else, and you just created the listing. When the person buys it, and this is not, well, print on demand is sort of drop shipping, but you have an input in it in that you've made the design, so you're commissioning the item. But drop shipping is you had absolutely no hand in the item, you just created the listing, and when the customer buys, you say, "Hoy, someone else in a cheap place, can you ship it to them for me?" And you basically do nothing. You're only marketing the item. Now, there are people like on Amazon, that's their job, that's what they do. But Etsy's not the place for it. They shouldn't be on Etsy. And Maya Maples just made a video comparing, and it's really annoying, buying things from Amazon, Temu, and Etsy, and in quite a lot of instances it was the same thing, just significantly more expensive from Etsy. So you think you're supporting a handmade seller, and you've got stuff that's just been drop shipped, and that annoys me.
If you're one of the few people who hasn't watched our episodes yet on Temu and Shein, then here's the TLDR of what dropshipping actually is.
Dropshipping is a sales model where a store, or seller in this case, doesn't actually keep any of their inventory on hand. Instead, when a customer puts in an order, that order is sent directly to the manufacturer, and the manufacturer sends the goods directly to the customer. By cutting out the middleman, aka the seller, it allows dropshippers to be able to offer products at a much much lower price point.
Cool question. Am I the only one who feels like that's the opposite of what Etsy is meant to be?
Remember that items on Etsy, by their own branding, are meant to have that human touch, which means that things like dropshipping should be against their terms of service, right?
And they are, apart from print on demand. I'm interested to see where she's going with this, but these are against Etsy's rules.
Well, maybe, kind of, depending on how you read it.
You see, according to Etsy's rules, everything listed for sale on Etsy must be made, designed, hand-picked, or sourced by you. And that leaves a lot of gray area for people to wildin' out.
Technically, the rules don't require an item to be handmade or made by you at all.
For example, let's say you make a really cool design to put on some t-shirts. You can then outsource the printing and shipping of those t-shirts to a third party. Technically, this is a form of dropshipping called print on demand. But not only is it a pretty standard practice in the fashion industry, you still made and own that design. You just outsource parts of the process, which is all above board according to Etsy.
And when you look a little bit closer at those rules, you may notice the word that I noticed, sourced. Once again, it's a measure of technicalities. Technically, a dropshipper is sourcing the item that they're selling to you. And technically, by doing that, they are not breaking any of Etsy's rules.
Except Etsy goes into more detail by what they mean by sourced by the seller. And just straight up drop shipping is not allowed. Now, there are things allowed that I don't agree with, but Etsy has tightened up those rules a bit, and there should be some hand input into it. At least you can't just directly drop ship, technically. Anyway, let's see where she goes with this. Why does my computer take so long? Come on. You can do it. Come on, computer. You can do it. Come on. We've only got a little more left to watch.
Technically. Ugh, God, I'm starting to hate that word. But this trend of dropshipping has led to bigger problems than just flooding searches with endless identical items. It's led sellers to a life of crime.
While it's not necessarily hard to get a commercial license to use someone else's design, many people don't want to take the time or the money to do it legally. Art theft on Etsy is rampant, especially among dropshippers. I mean, take a look at this Etsy store with over 250,000 sales. At first glance, it seems like any ordinary store.
However, the closer you look, the more things start to look a little bit sus.
First off, look at the sheer variety of the designs. There's a watercolor-inspired hippie van, a 3D-looking shark, and a military boot design thing.
I am really interested how she got past legal to talk about an individual shop. Yes, there's a lot of sus there, but it could be, technically, it could be, there's a lot of print-on-demand type shops that have AI generated things. They mass churn out different styles of designs. They might even create different, I've been on Etsy since 2008. If I was making designs, I could have made a lot of different designs in little styles, different styles. Am I saying that that shop's a good shop or she's going to see something? But to physically be pointing it out like that in such a big channel, I'm intrigued how she got that past her lawyer. I'm not disagreeing with what she's saying. Just calling out a specific shop is interesting. Oh no, don't be slow again.
Personally get the appeal of this one, but then not all art is made for me, and that is okay.
But that's not the point here. Now, sure, it's possible that this is an artist who happens to be super talented in multiple different art styles. But it's not likely. In fact, it's just not true.
When I did a reverse image search on these, they came back being sold on dozens of other sites, including other Etsy stores. Now, there's a lot of issues around selling stuff that has IPs that you don't own that we don't have time for today. You can actually watch this video right here if you want to learn more about that specifically. However, when it comes to selling things with art that's made by other artists, that you don't have permission to sell? Well, that was rude. That was pretty rude.
And don't just take my word for it. Etsy themselves also seem to have had their doubts. If you try and look up the seller on Etsy today, they're gone. Now, I seriously doubt that.
Okay, so that's how they get away with it. They said, okay, they're gone. But at the same time, you're calling out a shop. The problem with that is that shop could have been the legit one. Doubt it, but they could have been. So you're never 100% sure. And a lot of designs, the thing is with AI, you like Etsy allows AI art. I'm sure she's going to get into it. Etsy allows AI art, which whether or not you agree with it, but the point is that you are supposed to have a hand in the designing it. So you fill your prompt into the AI, but some of the AI, they tell you, did images created are not yours. They're going to do whatever they want with them. So you can see as a selling point on the site that's created, the AI site that's created that, often on the homepage, they'll say, hey, see what other people created, and you can take their designs. So something that you've created, other people can just, they've paid for an account on that AI art place. They can just go, oh, I like that design, I'll be nabbing that, thank you very much. And yeah, there's no copyright problem there, because currently there's no copyright on AI work because you didn't really create it. Yeah, that's a whole other rabbit hole for sure. But anyway, so that shop's got taken down.
A business that was doing over 250,000 sales would just go under.
Now, credit where credit's due. It does seem like Etsy is doing something to try and fix this issue.
In 2022, Etsy announced that they removed over 1.9 million listings for violating their various policies, which included a number of dropshipping stores. And by the next year, that number had doubled to 3.8 million.
So when it comes to dropshipping, Etsy is kind of at an impasse. Technically, it's not illegal on their site, and they are doing some things to try and fix it. Technically, even if you can still find a lot of very questionable items on their site. Yep, even on Etsy, you can't avoid the AI situation. And I don't just mean those AI summaries that every single website seems to be using nowadays, including Etsy. I mean 100% undeniable AI art being sold on Etsy. I know, Etsy's supposed to be the home of the human artist, the handmade items that you can buy.
Okay, she's going to go into a rant about AI, so I just wanted to get back to what we were just talking about. Technically, dropshipping's not allowed on Etsy. Yes, taking a design and just slapping it on is not allowed either, and that was clarified in their policies. So yes, even if you've purchased the license to slap the thing on the t-shirt, you're not allowed to do that. You have to have a hand in it. So there's no technicalities there. Etsy says that's not allowed. The fact that things are getting away with it is because it's hard to police the hundreds of millions of listings that are on Etsy. Etsy got too popular, and that's its downfall, as it were. They're one of its downfalls. So I don't want to be coming on here defending Etsy, but at the same time, a lot of these things aren't allowed. And if you see them, report them to Etsy. Etsy has said it does rely on us reporting them. It has its AI bot taking down things and getting it wrong. But, they are taking things down. She's saying that, technically they're allowed on Etsy, but Etsy took down 3 million listings. If it's taking them down, they're not technically allowed on Etsy. They just haven't been caught yet. That's like saying that bank robbers are technically allowed because it happens. Just because something's not allowed, but people get away with it, doesn't mean it's technically allowed.
From real, actual people. So Obviously, AI use has to be against the terms and service of Etsy, right? Wrong. Etsy has come out and publicly said that selling AI art on their site is A-okay. Completely fair, not a problem. So much for keeping commerce human, right, Etsy?
This means that anyone could use an AI image generator to make a picture and then turn around and sell it on Etsy with no issues. Heck, you could sell a digital download of that AI generated image for someone else to print at home and still be well within the rules according to Etsy.
Now, to be fair, there are some rules to selling AI generated art on Etsy, but those rules really just come down to don't break our other rules.
No nudity, no AI prompts, no IP thefts, which is already a murky area where AI is concerned.
But apparently that doesn't bother Etsy. As long as you disclose in your listing that the thing is AI generated, then Etsy's like, yeah, A-okay, sell away. And it's not just disappointing, it's sad. Like I said,
Okay, the AI thing is a contentious issue. It definitely is, but I don't think it's the biggest problem on Etsy. That there's bigger problems. And it's 50, like some people absolutely adore AI. There's a lot of people that are even using AI. They're using Chatty as their coach and their life coach. They're telling it all their problems and stuff. And if that's helping them, that's good. She says, suddenly realizing how terrible the fact that AI lies and you shouldn't be relying on AI. And I find it the same with AI art. I think it's really good as a buddy to help you with ideas. When you say, hey, what would a six-headed purple dragon look like from this angle? And you can have a look and you go like, actually, no, your lines look like spaghetti. You're terrible. But it can help you visualize things. I think AI can be good to bounce ideas off. However, there's whole ethical issues with AI, environmental issues. There's a lot to be sorted out, but it's above my pay grade to figure out all of that. That's the politicians to do it. So I'm not selling AI art, but I'm playing around. I use ChatGPT for certain things because sometimes you're not going to get left behind. Anyway, yeah, I get why she's annoyed about it, but it's the least of the issues.
At the start of the episode, I used to love getting stuff on Etsy. But at this point, after hearing all of the things that they're doing, I don't know if I want to keep supporting a company like this. I don't want to support a company that doesn't support its users, the users that built them up in the first place.
See? I literally just said that at a point earlier. I don't know how long I've been ranting here for. Yeah, she's saying, Amy, you are annoyed at Etsy. Us artistic sellers are so annoyed at Etsy, but we've got nowhere else to go. And by you saying you're not going to support us, you're taking artists' livelihood away because we've got nowhere else to sell but on Etsy. I know it's difficult to check and see. Reverse image search to make sure that your item isn't being drop shipped. Message the seller, get to know the seller, look at the videos. But don't give up on the sellers, and don't be telling people basically to give up on the sellers because Etsy is being less than wonderful. Support. Think if all the people who want to buy wonderful art go somewhere else, what's Etsy going to continue to become? If loads of people come and buy only wonderful art, the Etsy bot, what's it going to start to learn? What's the algorithm going to learn to push to new people who come on Etsy searching for things? Don't walk away and let Etsy become even more shit. Anyone with me here? If you want Etsy to be great, support the great things on it. Don't say these wonderful artists, you're going to turn your back on them because the only platform we've got also does other things.
That use their site to make a living or just share their art with other people. But at the same time, there are still thousands of creative human artists using Etsy to sell their stuff. Heck, I know people in real life who use it because it's the only means of getting their art to other people. And I'd hate to leave all of those artists behind just because Etsy didn't hold up its end of the bargain. So what can we do?
The answer is to figure out how to spot the difference between an artist and a con artist.
First, before you buy anything, check out the seller's store page.
While things like number of sales, age of store, and reviews feel like they should be the best way to gauge authenticity, as we've seen today, just because a store is big doesn't make it human.
But you know where you can look? The About section.
One of the best things about Etsy is that not only are these small creators making really cool things, but they're telling stories. And real human creators love to share their stories about how they got into making art.
This is what, fill in your About section and get your face or your hands, show that you're making the stuff. Show that literally sitting next to you, you are surrounded by stuff you've made and supplies. And yeah, like you've made your dog. Yeah. Yeah.
Often find that they'll share photos or videos of the creator.
Wow, she picked Silver Rain Silver. I've been trying to get an interview with Silver Rain Silver forever. They're a Glasgow-based art shop, not art shop, jewelry shop. They have a ridiculous number of sales, and I'd love to see what their studio's like, because it seems they have cool processes for mass hand making the charms and things, but they do seem to be making them themselves. And I'm like, this is actually really cool, and I want to get in there. And so anyone who knows Silver Rain Silver, they're in Glasgow. I want to do an interview with them, says Pam, the tiny YouTuber. But anyway, I was just excited because they're like a Glasgow company. They're down the road from me, but I don't know where their studio is. But yeah, I went to their About section and I had to look, and because I thought, oh, is this just a scammy shop or is this just a whatever? But it looks like, you know, they have a real
process in order to prove that they're making everything by hand.
But if you're still not sure, then take a closer look at the listing itself.
You can easily drag the listing pictures into Google Images. Or if you're on Chrome, it's even easier. Just right-click on one of the listing pictures and select Search with Google Lens. This will search the internet for similar images. And if you find the same item is being sold on other websites like, say, Temu or Shein, you might have a reseller on your hands.
Or you might have a seller who was doing really, really well and their images have been stolen by Shein and Temu. This is the big problem. And it has been for years. If you do well, your stuff can get stolen. But it is good to check this out anyway.
Finally, if you're looking at a listing and you just look at it and go, yeah, that really looks like AI, hit that Control F and search for AI on the listing.
Remember, AI is allowed on Etsy, so as long as it's disclosed, there should be no reason why someone would lie about making AI art, right? People.
It's not a perfect system, but the best thing you can do is trust your gut. If you think a real talented artist made that product, then go ahead and buy it. But if you look at it and still think something smells a little fishy, then feel free to toss that fish back into the ocean of scammers where it.
Okay, so I agree with most of that. We're not going to go through the last 10 minutes. I think she's done a ranty way to get to the same place as me, in that there's a lot of really good sellers on Etsy and we want to be able to find them. To find them, we've got to train the algorithm that we want good stuff. Now, if you want, see, I sort of see a place for AI art in that, not a beautiful, I wouldn't be hanging it on my wall, but when I was 19 going away to uni and I bought posters, I didn't know where they came from. I just wanted something bright on my wall, and I didn't have hundreds of pounds or dollars or whatever to spend. So, and if it starts people being creative, the problem is I don't want it to start people being scammy. The problem was with the pandemic, like I said, a lot of people thought that starting a business was easy and money comes rolling in. So we've got the scammers and we've got the scammer gurus that teach you how to be a scammer. And currently, why are they on YouTube teaching, or TikTok or whatever, teaching you to run a 6-figure shop? Because they can no longer run a 6-figure shop. And they know that all the people buying their course, most of them are not running a 6-figure shop. Check and see when people started. If they started in the pandemic, they've got a fake idea of what business is. And I feel sad that people starting now are also going to have a bad idea of what business is. And they're going to feel like such failures because they're being told that you should be making millions and millions, and you're not going to. So, yeah, you're going to have people who are trying to start up and they don't know that it's not like what it's been sold like. And so we're going to have less people getting inspired to start up and be crafty. But I want Etsy to be for artists. I'm perfectly happy if there was another site that was half the size of Etsy and was really good. I'd go there in a heartbeat. There isn't. Etsy was and should be decent. So let's just make it decent. And big channels like this doing a full nearly 20 minutes saying how terrible Etsy is, and then at the end going, oh, but we can make it better, after saying we don't want to buy there anymore and stuff. Like, I get it. Like, you've got to make videos that people watch, and yeah, whatever. But Etsy's the best we've got. I don't think continually repeating the same issues. There was nothing. Yeah, there was nothing new there. I hate saying this. Like, I really love Amy. I loved Style Theory for how they used to dive into things, like do real deep scientific dives, but going, you have to pay for things dramatically. That's just jumping on the bash Etsy bandwagon. Yeah, Etsy's going to see all of this. There's been a lot of bad publicity this week. So they'll be scrambling for their Q2 report. There might be some changes coming out. Who knows? But it's not helping. It's not helping new artists to want to come and sell on Etsy. It's not helping new crafty people to want to come and buy crafty things on Etsy. So in the comments below, tell me how you think we can fix things. We've had our angry season. We've been angry at Etsy. We've all had a rant. We've all said the things. It's not helping. Having a strike's not helping. Making angry videos isn't helping. It's just turning a bad perception of the site, and we're the sellers on the site, and we need, people used to feel good about shopping on Etsy. So in the comments, let me know what we can do to make Etsy better, because that's what we have to do. I've been racking my brains of things to do, and I'll keep thinking on it. And as a community, we can come together and hopefully, even if it involves, I'm not going to put ideas in your head, but let me know what you think we can do.